Alright, folks, if I take a look at this lab description here, it is saying we have two different points, A and B, and we want to know which is closer to the location 0, 0. And they even give us our distance formula here too. So what's going to happen is we're going to ask for information, and then it's going to output, it's going to make a decision as far as which one is closer to 0, 0. So with that being said, I can go ahead and I can open up my files here. I've got distance, which looks something like this. Let me make it a little smaller here. So I've got distance, which has these instance variables, two constructors. I'm going to write that in here. So here are my instance variables. And then two constructors. Oops. And then down here I've got some methods. So I've got, it looks like 1, 2, 3 different methods here. So I'm just going to say methods. And this distance file is going to be called by distance runner. So when I look at distance runner, distance runner gives us the main method. It even gives us the scanner object called keyboard this time, not scan. And it takes in a few different integers. What is this line of code right here doing? What is this line of code doing? I can maybe zoom it.
Oh, it's creating a new object.
Yeah, this is instantiating a new object of type distance. Okay. So I've got my new object of type distance. It's called test. And then we're going into test and we're setting the coordinates of it based on what the keyboard has. And then we're calling this method called determine closest, which is also happening inside this distance class. Some one of my other classes, my other hours, said like, well, why would I even do this all in here? Couldn't I all do it in the main method? And this is a good opportunity to talk about like what the AP test is like. The AP test is going to be more similar to write this class stuff, where you have constructors, where you have methods. The reason for that is the code we write here can be reused over and over and over again. In theory, I could even like make a distance, a object of type distance that would find the distance between any 2 points, and I would be able to do that really easily. So while I understand that you could create this all in the runner file, we're practicing creating other files that we can use in other places. So let's start actually with our set coordinates method. What is our set coordinates method going to do? Good, it's going to store these parameters in my instance variables, which are up here. Yeah, Team 5 for the win. So, up here, what's my instance variables I have? What are they called? X1, like the number 1. And I'm going to store X1 with the word 1 in there. Okay. Now, in the past, we've done this like many, many times, right? Where we would take now the same thing and kind of do it to my constructor. So I could copy and paste essentially all of this and put it in my constructor here as well. I want to point out kind of a shortcut, if you will. Once we have the set coordinates method, I can call that method here, coordinates, and pass in there the parameters I have in distance. So I could do x1, y1, x2, y2. I could do that, or I could copy and paste all of this up here. I could do either one. I shouldn't do both. That's a waste of time and space. But this is going to call this method, and then it's going to do exactly what I want it to do. You can do either way as far as I'm concerned. I'm just pointing that out. If you're looking for some shortcuts, that's a shortcut. Okay. I also have this other constructor I haven't done anything with, this no parameter constructor. So what should I set all my instance variables for here? 0. How could I do that?
Just say x1 equals 0, y1 equals 0.
Anybody have a shortcut for doing that?
Set coordinates 0, 0, 0, 0.
Yeah, I could just do set coordinates
Oh.
0, 0, 0, 0. And that is going to take those 4 parameters of 0 and then store them all in x1, y1, x2, y2. Okay? Again, you can do it either way. You can do it Aaron's way where he said, okay, I'm going to set x1 equal to 0, y1 equal to 0, x2 equals 0. You can do that way too. I'm just pointing this out as an option to you. Do we need more time with this, or are we ready to move on? I assume that means we're ready to move on. So we've got our method of set coordinates. Now we have to do this determine closest method. It gives us these values for distance A and distance B. Sometimes you'll hear these called local variables. That just means that they can't escape these parentheses, these curly brackets right here. So I've got distance A and B, which presumably would calculate the distance from 0 for A and B. And then I've got this string result where it's going to say either A is the closest or B is the closest. We'll store the string with the result. Like A is the closest. Something like that. So I'm just making a comment here, making sure I understand what's going on. All right, so turn to the elbow buddy next to you. How do you think we could approach this problem? We want it to print out A is the closest if A is the closest, B is the closest if B is the closest. So turn to the elbow buddy. How would you do this? All right. Anyone want to share their thinking or their elbow buddy's thinking? Oh, come on. I heard something. Anders, what's your thinking?
Just do the distance formula between each of them to 0.
Great. So I can take my value for distance A, and I can do the distance formula, which I found in one of these guys, probably this guy right here, right? So my distance formula is right up here. So I'm going to do math.square root. I've got x1 minus 0, and then I need to square that, so I'm going to multiply that by itself again. Or you could do math.pow. Oops. Yep. Okay. And then I want to do the exact same thing for distance B here. Except now instead of 1s, I'm going to take 2s. So now I have those two distances there. All right. So I've calculated the distances, I've stored them into variables. Now what am I going to do?
Tell which one's closer.
Determine which one's closer. How am I going to do that? Any ideas? If? I heard math.min. I could do that too. Or I could do if distance A is greater than distance B, what should I return if distance A is greater than distance B? What should I store in my result? B is closer. Got my semicolon here. Then what? Yeah, so I can do an else if distance A is less than distance B. What is it? Oh, space. Then I can say result is A is closer. I heard someone say, can I just do else here? What do you think? They could be the same, right? So maybe I want to have an else if this is true, and then else, there's no condition there, else, the result is A and B are the same distance away. And now this is important. At the end, it's going to return the result. So it's going to return the string. This is not printing anything to the string or printing anything to the screen. I'm just returning the result here. So now I'm ready to go back and take a look at my runner method. So inside my runner method here, I have pretty much all of the code I need. I can add more test cases if I want. So I'd have to create a new object. So how would I create a new object of type distance?
Distance, and then anything equals new distance. Semicolon.
Good. And I could even like put some values in here. So if I go back to this guy, this guy right here, let's use this test data, let's do 0, 6, 1, and 2. So if I input 0, 6, 1, and 2 here, I'm using that parameterized constructor, and then I can do a system.out.print, print ln, and I can say, okay, to test 2, go ahead and determine what's closer. Determine close. Okay. So that's going to output the results. So first I'm going to ask for user input, then I'm going to determine closest from that, and then I'm going to have a second test case. So I can go ahead and compile that. If everything goes all right, I'll put the code back up on the screen in a second. If everything goes all right, it should ask for user input. And let's use some user input they give us. 5, 5, 1, and 2. 5, 5, 1, and 2. And it says B is closer, and then B is closer right here too. So I used these two test cases, so it worked out. So you can test some more, like test things that are equal, things like that. But make sure it works, and then I'll come around and check your things, okay?